Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker and I'm your host. And on this show, we've got some great people that are from different walks of life, from different businesses, and they're all bringing extreme value. And I can tell you that today's guest is absolutely one of those people. Kyle Wilson is with us today, and he's the founder of the Jim Rohn International organization, yoursuccessstory.com, lessonsfromnetwork.com, and kylewilson.com. So this guy is juggling a lot of different things at the same time. And he's worked with top names in the personal development industry, including his 18-year business partner, friend, and mentor, Jim Rohn. And he's also worked with Jeffrey Gitmore, Og Mandino, Brian Tracy, Les Brown, Darren Hardy, Robin Sharma. I mean, listen to all these names. This guy is, he's been the wind beneath their wings, right? And he's the author of the 52 Lessons That I Learned from Jim Rohn and Other Great Legends that he promoted, that I promoted is the name of it. And he partnered with Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield on Chicken Soup for the Entrepreneur Soul. So I could go on and on about talking about how Kyle has filled seminar rooms. He's launched multiple best-selling books and personal development publications. This guy is a rock star, and he's here with us. Kyle, it is so good to have you here.
Penny, thank you so much. It's my honor.
So, wow. I mean, you've worked with some really incredible people.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. Part of that was learning to create platforms, right? So I became a seminar promoter, and when you can fill up rooms, you can attract great people. And so that's how it all really began as a seminar promoter. And then, I adapted. And when the internet came around, built a huge email list. And again, that was a platform for people with great content to, get their message out. So it's been a phenomenal journey.
What was one of the biggest challenges that you had starting out creating that?
Well, you have to, anything, I always say everyone starts at zero, right? So whoever you're following, whoever you want to become like, whoever that competition is, they started at zero. And so, I had to start at zero. I had to, learn through the school of hard knocks and, challenges. And it took me a while, but I got pretty good. And a big part of it was the influence of Jim Rohn. I discovered his message and really followed his principles and philosophies. And that helped me, grow as a person. And, in the whole seminar promoter world, that requires a lot of activity, a lot of effort. I had to become a student, had to learn. And, but it's something that over time, I got pretty good at.
How did you adapt? I mean, things have changed a lot, right? In the different platforms from when you started with Jim Rohn to how you might be promoting today. What's the biggest thing that you learned about, navigating the change?
Yeah, I always say there's two things. There's tactics and there's principles. And tactics are, the tactics change, right? Obviously, social media is a big tactic now.
Right.
And so it's whatever the tactics are, those are always going to change, but the principles don't change. And principles are bringing great value, building an audience, building relationships, connecting with the audience, and having great products and services to offer. And so, once I understood that, once I understood the value of bringing service, bringing great products, reaching the right customer and building that relationship, and then understanding the power of having advocates, and then empowering your advocates. Actually created a couple of different tools over the years. One moved over 6 million copies, and it was a viral marketing tool, the little Jim Rohn quote book, and I actually did them for Zig Ziglar and other speakers too. And what it really was just empowering our advocates to go share the message. So, that's a principle. I used the tactic of the booklet, but the principle was having great products, having great service, and then finding out how to empower your advocates to go spread the message.
That is super important. I love that differentiation. I always talk about strategy and tactics. And And I think that, you know, what's important for everybody who's listening and everybody who's in business, right, is that those principles are what guide us in our business, and tactics may change and we can pivot and strategize on how we're going to do them. But the principles have to come first, don't they?
They do. And I always say, never let a good tactic interrupt a principle, right? So
Right.
I see a lot of people, they say, oh, hey, this works. Let's try this latest gadget. And I'm like, as long as it doesn't violate the principle. And I see that happen often. People get caught up in something, and oftentimes it actually doesn't work. It works enough. You know, everything works, Penny, right? Putting business cards on windshields works. It just doesn't work very well, right? And so people get confused about, you know, the risk reward on some of the tactics they use. But, you know, it's crazy to me to see big companies will go out and spend fortunes and then have horrible customer service. That makes no sense. Companies spend huge fortunes to then have a subpar product. So really, the core of any business is have a great product, have great service, have great customer service, be relational. I think 2018, more than ever, it's about relationships. You know, I've been on all sides of this. I was pre-internet when I had to build it all with no list. Then I was one of the early adapters to the internet. I built a 1 million+ list. Now I'm looking, you know, currently, and it's really about connecting with people in relationships and getting them, you know, from social media platforms to get together. Like I do inner circle masterminds, and that's where the real magic happens, is when you can actually get people together. And again, so it's just understanding how all that works, and then just making sure that you don't, you know, so many people are doing things I don't think that are sound, and it's just because they bought into a get rich quick, if you will. You know, someone says, hey, here's how you go get 10,000 followers on Instagram, you know, in a month. Yeah, you could do that, and you know it's ethically wrong in how you're doing it. There's actually many unintended consequences in how you do it versus building it the right way, which is great content, sowing good seeds, and letting there be a harvest. So I'm a big believer in being a farmer, you know, and if I'm going to go create a fantastic wine, you know, and have a vineyard, it's going to take some time, but that's going to outperform over time someone else is trying to get a quick result. And that's just how you mentioned I've done a lot of things. You know, they were spread out, but the accumulation of doing good things that last, that's the power. That is the power. People just have to be patient. You know, Jim Rohn said the twin killers of success are greed and impatience. And it's a hard lesson for all of us, but once people realize when you follow the principles, you do things right, it's amazing that the results will happen.
You know, it's so true. I mean, you were talking earlier about how people, you know, compromise a principle for a tactic. And that is, you know, they're looking for that quick result. And I think it's brilliant to really check in when you're developing something, you know, any type of company, as you said, and make sure that you're really, you know, checking in on the process and its quality from start to finish. Because a lot of people, they just focus on one step of the process and they don't really manage it all the way through. And that's where it'll bite you in the butt, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times that's out of ignorance, right? It's their first go around, and you know they bought into kind of a get rich quick type of mentality. And I'm talking internet marketing, and that is my world. I'm an online marketer. I built a 1 million+ list. I had hundreds of products, but I watch so much BS out there, and people say, "Oh wow, I just built it. They're going to come. I'm going to make so much money. Let me just throw it out there." And that's the opposite of the truth. That's not going to happen. If it ever did happen, it doesn't happen now. Your stuff has to be really, really good. And converting cold traffic into buyers is very difficult, very expensive. You know, the only way to really make it work, if someone's thinking long term, is to do it right. Create something people will really want, and then put it out there in a smart way, and then, you know, build a foundation. Like, I have zero interest in doing any one and done type of activity. anything that's a one-time without a residual long-term compounding, effect is really just a bad use of time. When we're talking about productivity secrets, one of them is make sure everything you do is going to have a long-term build to it, right? We talked about being strategic, right?
Absolutely.
What's that one domino you can knock down that will knock down the rest of the dominoes? And so would people think, hey, I'll just go create something, throw it out there, and people are going to buy? It's their first rodeo. They haven't gone through the experience of that's not going to happen. It's got to be really good, or at the end of the day, you're just churning through people. And the results are going to be very minimal, if not actually very bad.
Absolutely. It's like you have to check in on yourself, and do your homework. Like you said, it could be from ignorance, could be from, like you said, Jim Rohn, from greed or impatience. And it's a different way of thinking to really think, in terms of the long term. And as you said, so the residual income and creating something to last. It seems like people don't think like that anymore, or is it just me? Is it,
I think there's a lot of noise. Fortunately, there are a lot of people that are very principle-based, and you're surrounded by them, I'm surrounded by them, but because of all the noise on social media,
right,
and a lot of the marketing noise, it gets clouded out. But I think everyone has to have a little bit of experience. My favorite clients are people that have failed, right? Because they're not living in la la land. They have figured out, okay, what they said didn't work, what they said didn't work. How do I do this and make it work? And it's like, okay, now we can get somewhere because, we're going to do it right. And so, yeah, I think a lot of times it actually is out of ignorance, and there is the aspect of greed and impatience along with it.
So what would you say, as you're working with people and you're helping them cut through the noise, what are the biggest things, outside of what you just said, which is critical, is focusing on those principles? What are some of the other things that you guide them around so that they can be more strategic and work smarter?
Yeah, so for me, Penny, going way back to when I partnered with Jim Rohn, is this thing called the wheel, WHEEL, the wheel. And picture a wheel with a hub in the middle, and you're the hub. And then add spokes, and every spoke is a product or a service. And the goal is when people get on the wheel is you take them around the wheel. And so with that in mind, my biggest goal is to get people on the wheel and build a relationship with them. It's different than a funnel. People are caught up in funnels. Okay, I'm going to get cold traffic and I'm going to take them down this funnel and sell them something, which does have an agenda to it. The wheel is more like building a relationship, and they pick and choose which spokes they're interested in. So back to the strategic part of it is you have to be strategic about what those spokes are. What one spoke, if you added it, and I have some examples of ones I did that changed everything. What one spoke, if you added it, would get more people on the wheel and take them around and build the relationship. Mm-hmm. So for me, back in 1994, and back to the question, it's finding that secret sauce. And that's the question I always tell people is you got to begin with what makes you special, what makes you unique. What makes your message unique? What can you offer that most people can't offer? And typically, it's just whatever makes you very, unique. I think it's Sally Hogshead had said, unique and different is better than better, right? When we're authentically ourselves, just being authentically who we are, there is something powerful that shines through, that truth that we carry. So you got to discover what that is. And then once you discover it, make sure that that's a thread and that's part of the wheel. So everything I've ever created, whether it was with Jim Rohn or then I was Dennis Waitley's agent as well, or Ron White, Chris Widener, different people currently, people I work with, I'm always finding out what is that secret sauce, what makes them unique, and then making sure What's the one product? Don't focus on 20. What is the one thing that if you did it would knock down the dominoes? For Jim Rohn, it was a little quote book, and then it was another, that we sold 6 million of, and then I did another little audio called Build Your Network Marketing Business. It sold millions. But more importantly than the 6 million and the millions was it got people on the wheel, and we built a relationship with them. And from there, they came to our seminars, they bought our programs, and we weren't just constantly trying to upsell people to something bigger. We were actually building an audience, building a tribe, building relationships, getting great value. And then that's when you have advocates. And there's nothing more powerful than having people out saying how great you are. And so I think a lot of people are in that cold traffic cycle versus warm and hot traffic.
Yeah.
And how do you get warm and hot traffic? You have to build a relationship, give people great value, give them something they want. And a lot of people take their customers for granted. Again, that's a bad principle. It's a bad philosophy. And so, how do I now serve my warm market, serve the people that love me? And then by taking care of them, they become advocates, and now you're dealing in the warm and hot traffic.
Well, it's a really smart model. So just to jump in here,
yeah, exactly.
It's a smart model. It's dealing with your advocates. If they already love you and you take care of them, then they're going to go and spread the word. And then you've got, in a way, an alternative sales force, if you want to call it, right, who are advocating
right.
on your behalf. And that, was easier than, like you said, just trying to, spray and pray approach by knocking on everyone's door. And that's not going to get you as far.
Yeah, and trying to quickly, so many funnels out there, they're trying to take cold traffic and turn people into a sale so quickly. And I get it, I understand, and I think there's some scenarios where that, I get it. But for the most part, the more you can realize that if you have an opportunity to build a relationship. So the example for me is, and I know we're going to bring it up at the end, but it applies to what we're talking about. I have this thing called 52 Lessons I learned from Jim Rohn and other legends. And it's free. And people get on it, and then I give them a weekly lesson. And I don't try and sell them anything. What I do is, when I'm talking to my list, if I have an event coming up, I tell everyone about the event. If I have a book project coming up, I tell everyone about the book project. But they're not in a funnel. I'm not trying to drive an agenda. I'm giving them great content. A lot of people, wouldn't be able to afford things I do. And that's totally cool with me. I'm not trying to sell them. I'm just building a relationship, talking to my audience. And that's what I tell people, whether you're a doctor, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a speaker, an author, the key is you want to be building a list and talking to the list. I've given them great value, and then occasionally give them something to say yes to and say, wow, I would love to be part of what you have coming up. And that's, in my mind, that's fishing versus hunting. I'm not out hunting. I'm actually out just putting out good stuff. And those that want it will say yes.
I like it. I think that it's, I like how you're comparing it to the funnel, and so that we can really see that it's it's really a more of a relationship builder than a funnel that quickly puts people in and weeds them out quickly, right? So then they're not
right.
in a relationship. They're just selling. I mean, it's just, it's
right.
just, so that's why you're so successful and why you've created very successful, speaker brands and different people that you've been working with are raving about you because you're helping them to build those long-term relationships.
And I get the benefit of feedback, and part of it is, you over the years, I pay attention to everyone that says yes to anything. And it's always fascinating. People that, some people, you're speaking at an event, they sign up for whatever you're doing. Some people, though, it's 5 years later, right? But the cool thing was, they got on my wheel, they got on my list. I'm not just trying to bombard them with stuff. I'm actually just building a relationship. And when the time's right, they say yes. The time's not always right. And sometimes the people that, they're not candidates for what I'm doing, whether it's economically, they're not there, or it's just not right for them. sometimes they refer someone that it's right for, right? So again, the key is whether you're doing a podcast or an interview, or you're speaking, or you're at a meetup, or you're at an event and you're meeting people, if they're potential candidates to build a relationship with, I always encourage people, have a list and start talking to the list and give great content, become a utility, be someone that's connecting people in the marketplace. And there's so many great things that can come from that. And part of it is that platform we began the call with. You've created a platform. So when you're part of someone's event, you can send it out to your list and invite people. So now you're more valuable when you're a speaker, or if you're on a podcast, or you're doing an interview, or you're sharing responsibility with someone on an event. The more you build your audience, the more valuable you become, because you've now created a platform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are, really great ways. We're talking about taking back time, right? When we're more strategic and we're building a long-term asset, that is a way to take back time. It's an investment in the beginning, but that investment pays off tenfold, right? I mean, I'm a total believer in that, because actually, for me, some of my best and most loyal clients are not the ones that said yes right away. Sometimes it's the ones that had built a relationship over time, and then they became clients and have been clients for 10 plus years. So I totally appreciate that value, that relationships are so valuable, no matter what stage they're in.
Yes. And it actually, having a list, a lot of people think, I don't have time to deal with the responses. Like that's the number one thing. And it's actually the opposite. I have more free time than most people, because I have systems, and I let my list and my systems do the work. I put good stuff out. If people are interested, they say yes. Then if they send me a question, I send them, here's how they could sign up for whatever they want. Or if they want some resources, I give them a link to go get to those resources. But what I am doing is building these relationships. So when they're ready, they say yes, versus someone, like we said, having to hunt and go out and get a new customer. And I see that a lot. People are having to start over so often. And if they created the right systems, it actually saves massive amounts of time, and it also creates all the right behaviors.
Absolutely.
And right results.
I mean, systems create leverage, right? They enable you to scale, and they're critical in taking back time. What are some of the systems that you recommend that you use?
Well, I always say, again, I don't know how many people listening to this have a list, but as I said, if you're a doctor, you should be talking to your audience. You have seasonal things coming up. When school's about to start, anyone in athletics has to get a physical. When it's flu season, all these different things. And if you're just putting stuff out to your audience, first of all, you're fresh on their brain, and second of all, it's like, we need to go see Dr. Jones and get our physical done. And so to do that's a missing piece for so many people. I use Aweber. There's a lot of different things you can do. There's MailChimp and some free services. I use Aweber, Aweber, because it has the best delivery rates. It's like $20 a month. But the best thing is you can get on a live call. There's like 2 or 3 things of why I would do Aweber over many of the other free resources. And it's not a CRM. You don't want your email list to be a CRM. And that's the other big mistake people make, is they try and do everything in one system, like a constant contact. I keep my CRM system but then to really make email marketing work, I have a separate way, and I put everyone in my Aweber list, and I talk to people that way, and I have it segmented into different groups. So, not everyone's going to get the same message. If it's not applicable to a particular group, I'll make sure they don't get that message. So that's one system, is my email list. Another system is, there's just certain things, if I have this inner circle, I have these book programs, I have high-end coaching, And if someone's really interested and, I feel like they're a candidate, I'm always going to do a call with them. So people will reach out and say, hey, when can you talk? I always just give them a link to my scheduler, and I use Acuity. And if they don't want to click it, I'm fine. We're done. It's one of those things. I'm going to make people jump through that hoop to schedule a call with me so we can talk through if it's a good fit for them and a good fit for me. And that just keeps my life simple. I know, I block out time in advance, and whether it's a coaching client that's a 2 hour or 4 hour or 1 hour, or it's someone I'm talking to that's a prospect for some of my high-end services, and those are 30-minute calls, everyone gets the same link. And I never have to try and figure out if I have time. They go book it. And then I'm very careful what I block out. Like I typically, and I know not everyone has this luxury, but I usually will not do a call before 2 o'clock in the day. So I have my times of, Tuesday and Thursday for, 4-hour blocks that I do all my calls, and some of my high-end coachings like on a Friday. But, the rest of the time is when I'm working on my business and working on myself, right? That's another huge time. Tip is to make sure you have your own personal time every morning, right? That's probably number one, is blocking out those first couple of hours every
Absolutely.
morning. But I'm
love that
pretty
you
protective of that time.
Yeah, I love that you actually don't take calls before 2 p.m. and that you're really clear. I think those are, definitely best practices that people have, that they carve out this time where they say, this is my time to build my business or to develop myself, to take care of my health. And a lot of times it's to start the day proactive versus reactive, right? The minute you check your email and you're on calls, you're not as proactive as, when you're working strategically on driving that scalability or working on your health and things like that.
Exactly. And not everyone has that luxury. It's just my business. I can do it that way. And, there's exceptions, right? There's times that I have to make an exception. But because of how I do my schedule, it allows me to make that exception, right? I have a really important interview I'm going to do Thursday with Success Magazine talking about Jim Rohn's legacy. And fortunately, because I have that time blocked out for myself, I was able to say yes.
Right.
And so, no, it definitely works for me. And it took me a while to get here, but just a couple of really simple things. It's like, I think it's important, Penny, also to have a place for everyone. So for me, everyone I meet, there's a place. They can get on my 52 lessons and get great free stuff. I have all kinds of free resources. And so, there's a place. But then if they want to be part of my other things, I have, 3 core things I do. And then if they want something beyond that, it's probably not going to be a fit for me or fit for them. So I'm very clear about, what I do and what I don't do and why I do it and why I don't do it. But there's so much free stuff that, there's a place to put people. And so I think that's another thing, is life gets simple when you know that whoever you talk to, they're either a candidate or they're not. And there's a place for them to be on your wheel, if you will. Absolutely. And social media is a good example of that, right? We have friends on social media, and, there doesn't have to always be agendas. It's just like, okay,
that's right.
You like, you comment, they're not necessarily customers, and that's great. You appreciate, that they follow you and you follow them. And so,
totally.
For me, I made sure I have things that kind of apply to everyone with some of the resources I do.
That's great. Kyle, I know we're at the top of the hour and you're booked up. So tell us where they can reach you to get your 52 lessons so that they can, get to know more of those stories and more about you.
Penny, thanks so much. They can go to kylewilson.com. So it's pretty simple. KYLE Wilson, WILSON.com. And they'll see it at the top. And it's a weekly lesson. Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Dennis Waitley, Aaron Hardy, Les Brown, some amazing lessons and collaborations I've done with some pretty cool people.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Kyle. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Penny, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks in Philadelphia.
Yay, Philly!
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
And thank you all for being here. You're taking your valuable time to invest in these lessons, right? Keith has 52 lessons. All you need is one that's going to make a difference, that's going to create an impact for you so that you can work more strategically in growing your business, in focusing on the things that are most important to your life so you can be efficient and effective, more productive, more balanced, and happier in your life. So that's the goal. This is Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker, and we'll see you in the next episode.